It was widely believed that everyone knew why Pauley Perrette had given up acting. It was a straightforward official story. She desired a more tranquil life. The released records, however, present a different picture. Safety infractions, accusations of abuse, and a co-star she was so terrified of that she had counseling to deal with it all. CBS believed their deal would put a stop to everything. They weren't correct. Pauley is now 56 years old and eager to finally speak the truth about what actually transpired over those last few years on set. Pauley Perrette was born in New Orleans on March 27, 1969, but she had a very different upbringing. The family was continually relocating from one state to another because her father was employed in the railroad sector. She lived in 14 different locales by the time she was a teenager. She never felt like she belonged somewhere since she never stayed long enough. However, this frequent uprooting taught her how to adapt, blend in, and read people swiftly. Despite her Louisiana birthplace, she consistently claimed that Alabama felt like home. She had extraordinary adaptability as a result of her upbringing in the South's different locations. Something that would later help her make it through the turbulent Hollywood industry. Pauley was determined to fight crime even before anyone knew her as Abby Sciuto. She did more as a child than merely watch cartoons and read fairy tales. Real-life tales of criminals and the science behind their capture captivated her. While most children aspired to be astronauts or athletes, she mentioned being an FBI agent, working with animals, or joining a rock band. She also meant it. She pursued a career in criminal justice after high school, earning degrees in criminology, psychology, and sociology. But she didn't end there. After relocating to New York, she started her master's degree program at John Jay College of Criminal Justice. Her motivation was neither success or notoriety. All she wanted to know was why people harm other people without feeling guilty. For years, that question plagued her. She was studying and struggling to make ends meet when something happened to her that would permanently alter her. In the 1980s, while she was living in Atlanta, she was brutally robbed. There are few specifics, but the impact was profound. It was not only a scary moment. It turned out to be pivotal. She used the trauma as fuel rather than ignoring it. She was more motivated to continue researching crime and assisting others as a result. It was then that she began advocating for victims. Always keeping in mind what it was like to be one of those harmed, she supported others in need by using her voice and expanding platform. Her time in college wasn't like any other. Pauley put in a lot of effort in school, but she put in much more effort outside of it to make ends meet. She pursued her studies in criminal justice in Georgia and maintained her academic standing. The situation worsened after she relocated to New York. She was a perfect fit for the city's quirky nightlife, working as a bartender in subterranean clubs while sporting combat boots and a mohawk. Additionally, she used roller skates to distribute posters and even cooked on dinner cruise ships to raise money for school. Despite the lack of glamour, she later claimed that it all provided her an advantage. She lived human behavior every day rather than only reading about it in textbooks. Although it wasn't her intention, the combination of classroom education and practical experience proved to be the ideal preparation for acting. When she was only 15, she had her first tattoo. That was startling in the very conservative Southern society in which she was raised. Television and movies were rarely permitted in the austere church where she had grown up. She had the ideal Southern girl appearance when she was younger. Courteous, well-behaved, with pigtails and blonde hair. She felt different on the inside, though. The tattoos served as a means of expressing to the world her refusal to abide by the restrictions that others had established for her. Over the years, she accumulated over 20 tattoos that each represented a different aspect of who she was. In defiance of all the expectations she was brought up with, she transformed her body into a canvas. She only had $71 in the 1990s when she eventually made it to Hollywood. She had recently returned from New York, where she struggled to make ends meet while working as a bartender in the city's nightlife. The situation in Los Angeles didn't get any better. She slept on the floors of friends and accepted any jobs she could find. She even earned rent by doing voiceover work for a dial-in song service. She had not pursued acting as a career her entire life. While attempting to survive, she stumbled into it. Only because her initial goal to work in criminology was unable to cover the expenses did she lean into it. She was walking dogs down Sunset Boulevard for only $5 a day during one of her lowest points. Although it seemed insignificant, it resulted in something unique. Her pet Cece was a pit bull whom she had rescued from the streets. That dog was more than a pet. It was a narrative she told. The relationship to Cece added even more significance to the incident when she and a co-star got into a fight years later about his violent dog. These outings sparked her passion of animals, which has since permeated every aspect of her life. In the years since, she has contributed to numerous animal rescue groups. Her first television break came from overhearing someone converse in a coffee shop, not from agencies or auditions. She learned about the Drew Carey Show casting call as she was seated close by. She was cast as an extra named Darcy as a result of that one moment, and she appeared in 4 episodes over the course of 2 years. She then gradually started creating her resume. She got roles in television programs like Murder One and Frasier. And every one of them got her one step closer to her big break. The pivotal moment came during that overheard exchange. She played radio DJ Alice Wisdom in the 2000 film Almost Famous, for which she made a brief appearance. Although the job wasn't very important, it allowed her to collaborate with filmmaker Cameron Crowe and actors like Philip Seymour Hoffman. Her role in the little play The Price of Kissing was a few years prior. Although these parts weren't huge hits, they aided in her development as an actress. Despite its lackluster box office performance, Almost Famous became a cult classic. She's shown her versatility and brilliance in those movies even before NCIS made her well known. Pauley Perrette wore sneakers, a basic white t-shirt, and loose-fitting Levi's when she entered the audition room in 2003. In contrast to the gothic persona she would eventually be recognized for, she was naturally blonde. However, Don Bellisario allegedly remarked, "That's her," as soon as she walked in. Perrette didn't even have to make a concerted effort, as her buddy Kevin Lawson subsequently confirmed. Her caffeine-fueled enthusiasm, quick-witted kindness, and affection for hugs were sufficient. She didn't play Sciuto's role. It was a natural part of her. Her quick wit, love of hugs, and caffeinated enthusiasm weren't predetermined. All Pauley was doing was being Pauley. Then everything changed. Abby did more than simply join the squad. She turned into the team's soulmate. Fans made it apparent despite the lack of official CBS data comparing her popularity to other characters. People adored Abby. She gained popularity. And her role soon exceeded expectations. Writers continued to increase her screen time after noticing the relationship. Upon her departure in 2018, she had made appearances in every episode since the start of the show. No other cast member had a run like that. No actor could ever create as much disruption on set as one little stuffed animal. Bert the farting hippo was the one. When squeezed, a purple plush animal emitted fart noises. What began as a backdrop item became a legend on the set. It was fought for by the cast and crew. In order to prevent anyone from taking it home, the producers had to lock it away at one point. Episode after episode featured Bert, who provided lighthearted respite during the most depressing moments. The thing that made Abby famous was not merchandise. Such oddball details were what made it memorable. Behind the scenes, Perrette was serious about Abby's work as a forensic scientist. It became evident that Abby was knowledgeable when the 3rd episode, Sea Dog, aired in October 2003. It wasn't an accident, though. Perrette gained knowledge of the science and collaborated with actual forensic specialists. She researched lab procedures, ballistics, and DNA analysis to give the part a realistic feel. She didn't only learn lines by heart. She got their meaning. Abby was no longer only a fictional character on TV because of this. She thought she could just stroll into a real NCIS lab and start working. It wasn't just the character that captured Pauley Perrette's heart. She gave her all to worthwhile causes. Among those was the assistance to veterans. She was involved with American Humane's Pups for Patriots initiative, which matches PTSD-affected soldiers with assistance dogs. Traumatic brain injuries, oh. The expense of training these dogs might reach $30,000. However, Perrette supported the goal and did her part. Through the program, over 160 veterans have been matched with trained canines, providing them with dignity in addition to support. Abby's admiration for service members was reflected in the program. The climax of Season 7 saw the show's popularity soar. In the US, more than 20 million people watched that one program. It was a significant event for NCIS. Even the ratings for American Idol that year were surpassed by the criminal drama. The 18 to 49 age group saw a 25% increase in the show compared to the previous season. The overall viewership increased from 14.9 million to 17.6 million in a single year. This finale wasn't your typical one. That was the moment when NCIS topped the American scripted drama rankings and remained there. The peculiar yet successful marketing success of Abby's signature beverage, Caf Po, was one of the most notable. It began as a design concept. Caffeine pills were originally intended. In order to avoid Abby taking tablets on television, the filmmakers changed it to a vibrant red energy drink. That red cup then became recognizable. The idea was quickly adopted by 7-Eleven, which launched a campaign that increased sales of energy drinks nationwide by 14%. Even Caf Po cups with festive themes were produced. The fact that Pauley Perrette never drank it was unknown to the majority of fans. They poured her cups with cranberry juice. Perrette didn't request a body double. She had extreme claustrophobia, even in situations that made her physically uneasy. Yet continued to film in cramped morgue setups without assistance. In a significant hostage situation in the Bête Noire episode, she had to confront those concerns. She did not recoil. She didn't stop. It was referred to as necrophobia by the show, even though the set made her feel as though she was having trouble breathing. It wasn't about dead bodies, though, for her. The walls were closing in on them. But she remained true to herself. For 15 years, she never allowed fear to affect how well she performed. While Perrette was on NCIS, she also secretly produced a webcomic. She published a series titled Lab Babble, which was all about Abby's lab escapades, under the pen name P. Initially, nobody recognized her. Abby's humor, science, and even Bert the Hippo were all included in the comic. Fans eventually discovered it. However, the humor wasn't the most unexpected aspect. That's where the cash went. All of the money raised from the ads was given to national animal sanctuaries. She performed a silent deed of kindness even though no one asked her to. Guinness World Records awarded Perrette a title in 2011 that has never been earned by anyone before. The most well-liked actress in a crime drama on television was her. Ratings weren't the only factor used in this. It originated from a metric known as the Q-score, which gauged how much the audience liked her personally. She is more than just the character. Actresses from Law & Order and CSI were beaten out by her. NCIS was averaging over 18 million viewers per episode at the time. She was unique, though, and it wasn't simply her gothic appearance or scientific terms. It was her way of making people care. Everything on the NCIS set changed in October 2016. As he had done for years without any issues, Mark Harmon brought his rescued pit bull, Dave. But a terrible incident happened that day. A crew member was severely bitten by the dog, requiring 15 stitches. The onslaught was severe enough to cause a 2-hour production halt. It wasn't a brief fright. Deep mental and physical damages were caused by the injury. It was later acknowledged by Harmon's lawyer that he had cautioned him about the dangers of bringing the dog back. Still, Dave came back. Fear now pervaded what had been a secure, controlled environment. There was no silent disappearance of that occurrence. That started a domino effect that would destroy the foundation of the show. Pauley Perrette insisted that CBS never let Dave back on the set again. Immediately following the dog attack. It shook her. She was incensed, however, when the network allowed the dog to return. In response, she had a strict condition added to her contract for season 15. She would never again appear with Harmon in the same scene after that. It was a mystery to the fans. They didn't ever appear together on screen. Behind the scenes, they had to be accommodated in the filming schedule. Different crews worked on different days to shoot her scenes. Production expenses increased, and managing the entire system grew more challenging. 15 million people watched her last show, in which they didn't even share a building. In order to create the appearance of a relationship when none existed, editors had to meticulously piece the episode together. Pauley then revealed everything to the world in June 2019. She fired out a tweet at 6 in the morning that instantly went viral. She claimed to be afraid of Harmon and to have nightmares about him assaulting her. She made it apparent that she will never work on NCIS again. She did not say this in a private or press interview. Raw, honest, and straight was how they were. The internet became viral. As people sought to comprehend her words, entertainment websites crashed. Harmon's reputation as a serene father figure on TV was abruptly shattered. He didn't speak. For many, her remarks gained even more weight because of that quiet. Pauley had already submitted 3 distinct safety reports to HR, which were not only hearsay about arguments or compensation discussions. It was eventually verified by CBS that she had voiced concerns more than a year prior to her departure. She claimed to have been the victim of several physical attacks in a 2018 tweet. Her writings implied that she was coerced into silence and accused a strong machine of disseminating false information around her departure. She claimed she needed therapy after feeling unsafe while traveling to work. The fact that she submitted 3 separate reports indicates that she made an effort to follow the correct procedures. It also implies that CBS missed several opportunities to respond more forcefully. Instead of simply leaving the workplace, Pauley felt compelled to flee from it. The most alarming development was when it was reported that she had engaged a private investigator. She wasn't merely annoying. She was gathering evidence. Pauley utilized the safety issues on the NCIS set that the investigator had documented to pressure CBS into a private payment. It has been reported by several sources that CBS paid her between $5 and $9 million. This was not about a pay decrease or a poor script. It was about responsibility and safety. A stringent non-disclosure agreement was included in the settlement, which was intended to hide everything. CBS was also facing criticism for other examples of wrongdoing at the same time. For harassing Eliza Dushku on another show, they recently compensated her $9.5 million. According to the money Pauley received, her case was so serious that if the facts were ever made public, there would be significant harm to Mark Harmon's career and CBS's reputation. Broke, a new sitcom, was Pauley's attempt at a comeback 2 years later. It got off to a solid start. Over 7 million viewers tuned in on April 6, 2020. The success was short-lived, though. Ratings dropped rapidly. There were just 3.6 million viewers left at the conclusion of the 13-episode season. In the crucial 18 to 49 age group, the show's rating had fallen to 0.4. That figure much falls short of what networks require to sustain a program. Nor were the critics kind, describing the show as aimless and dull. Despite CBS's best efforts, her TV career ended in quiet. Pauley's return to primetime television, where she was one of the biggest performers, was met with poor reviews and low viewership. 2 months after the cancellation of Broke, Pauley sent out a final message. In vivid rainbow hues, she tweeted, "I'm free," on July 7, 2020. Not all of the updates were positive. She had formally retired from acting. Now, she claimed, she just has to answer to God, animals, and plants. She went on to say that her only judges were her rescue dogs. She obviously had no plans to ever work in the field again. With over 350 NCIS episodes alone, her acting career spanned more than 25 years. She was done for good now, though. Interviews, arrangements, and a farewell tour were all absent. A single, audacious message that shut the door forever. Many were taken aback by the subsequent events. Despite her retirement, she continued to get job offers. Law and Order, SVU, and The Good Doctor were among the major television programs that wanted her to make guest appearances. Parts of this type typically cost between $100,000 and $300,000. It was an easy triumph for someone with her background and well-known name. It wasn't about money anymore, though, so she answered no. Peace was at issue. She had formerly backed SVU and its causes, but she wouldn't return to that environment. She was serious when she declined offers like this. She wasn't trying to get famous. She was safeguarding her health. Upon opening her eyes on the morning of September 7, 2021, Pauley Perrette saw right away that something was off. She felt numb all the way down her right side. The sensation didn't return, so she tried dismissing it, figuring it might have been a weird sleeping posture. Her finger felt like it belonged to someone else as it touched her own cheek. Her skin was indifferent to even the weight of her laptop sitting on her legs. At that point, panic struck. When she called her doctor, he advised her to not wait. In just a few minutes, she found herself in an emergency room with medical personnel confirming her worst fears. She had a severe ischemic stroke at the age of 53. For 36 hours, she was silent. She was unable to speak. Her first remarks were unimpressive when she eventually resumed speaking. There was a hint of sarcasm in them. "You mean it, dude?" The truth is, though, that her doctor didn't think she would live past 5 o'clock that day. It had been that risky, the stroke. The recuperation process was lengthy and taxing, requiring months of speech and motor skills treatment. She survived, though she was scarred. The doctors weren't the only thing that kept her alive. It was Rosie. Neither Rosie nor her family were nurses. She was a rescue dog for Perrette. Rosie kept pawing at her throughout the stroke, awakening her up just in time. The difference between life and death was that insignificant gesture. Rosie bought her the minutes she needed during a stroke, when every second matters. Animal rescue had long been a passion of Perrette's. She frequently talked about how much she loved the dogs she adopted throughout the years. This, however, was different. In the end, she was saved by the dog she had rescued. She realized then that their relationship was much more than just friendship. It was about surviving. Her dedication to animal rescue only deepened after that, as it was based on thankfulness and an almost mystical quality. Following the stroke, that sense of spirituality grew. Perrette started looking for calm in isolated areas far from Hollywood. Twice a year, she began going to a Benedictine monastery in Big Sur. She learned to listen, to breathe, and to slow down there. She was not tempted to convert by the monks. Instead, they taught her how to sit quietly and pray in a way that she found authentic. She created a straightforward prayer that she says every day. "Please pardon me for everything, and thank you for everything." She claims to hear clear guidance during those quiet times, not loud or dramatic. Phrases like trust or not now come in whispers. It was not the faith she had known as a child. In those days, she didn't even know how to pray. However, these days, her talks with God resembled check-ins with a friend. Her recovery from the stroke was aided by these getaways. They assisted her in processing years of trauma, such as past abuse and a vicious attack that left her feeling scared and shaken in 2015. Despite her own suffering, Perrette continued to find methods to help others. She was hired as an executive producer for a project that has great personal significance for her, the documentary Studio One Forever. The movie looks into the past of Studio One, America's first gay disco, which ran its business in West Hollywood from 1974 and 1994. It wasn't merely a club. In particular, during the dreadful early days of the AIDS crisis, it was a place where the LGBTQ community found joy, freedom, and one another. Celebrities like Bruce Vilanch and Chita Rivera, who were present, share their stories in the movie. But Perrette had an easy explanation. She desired that those voices be heard. Studio One was more than simply a dance floor, and she wanted people to know that. In a hazardous time, it was a sanctuary of safety. The project became a celebration of history, resiliency, and community after making its debut at the 2023 Outfest LA Film Festival. However, a few of her most significant pieces were never featured in the media. Christina Flores, a young cancer patient, received her discreet assistance in 2015. Christina aspired to meet Abby Sciuto and was an avid NCIS fan. The Make-A-Wish Foundation made that desire a reality. They got to know one another, spent time together, and even got temporary tattoos that matched. A few weeks later, Christina died. Nobody was aware at the time, but Pauley had covered Christina's family's whole funeral costs as well as their travel expenditures. Publicity wasn't the reason. It was not public. Only a tweet from Christina's aunt, which was later removed, made it public. Perrette said nothing. She did not have to. She had already recognized a young child whose fortitude moved her and done what was important. Despite Hollywood's constant calls, Pauley continued to uphold her morals. She was offered $750,000 by Playboy magazine in 2007 to pose. No, she said. They returned in 2013 with about $1 million. She rejected them once more. NCIS was one of the most popular television programs at the time, with over 19 million viewers per week. Although she didn't want to be involved in anything that treated women like objects, Playboy expected she would say yes. Knowing that young followers were observing, she wished to convey a different message. She said that the offers did not entice her in a 2014 interview with TV Guide. Not at all. Despite the consequences, she remained steadfast in her view that there were alternative ways to demonstrate strength. Perhaps the most unexpected event, however, occurred in 2023 when Pauley's will was released during a Los Angeles probate proceeding. Her entire estate was worth more than $22 million. Neither friends nor family received a dime. Every dime was instead donated to the Innocence Project and no-kill animal shelters. Her attorney attested to it, stating that she wanted to steer clear of any inheritance-related turmoil. She had been a supporter of these causes for years. 12 pets were saved by her in just 1 year. She left 60% of her estate to shelters and 40% to aid in the release of those who had been unfairly condemned. She even had one last thing to ask for. They'd split her ashes. About half would be strewn across a dog park. The rescue center where she got her first puppy would receive the other half.